Howdy out there, everyone. Today I thought I'd share with you my Arrow video, Imprint video, Vinegar Syndrome video, and Paramount Presents video releases. So of course, starting off with Arrow rather, we've got 12 Monkeys. I would argue this is probably Terry Gilliam's best film. It's certainly one of the best time travel movies ever made, and features a just wonderful performance by Bruce Willis. Of course, Brad Pitt got a lot of kudos for his part, and deservedly so, and Madeline Stowe did her thing, but I thought Bruce was particularly effective in this, playing somewhat against type. I mean, there were flourishes of the John McClane Bruce, but it was pretty tamped down. Then we have American Werewolf in London, John Landis werewolf flick with, the great Rick Baker doing the werewolf effects. Then we've got Richard Kelly's Donnie Darko. This is a fantastic collector's edition release, 4K. And we have Gas, Food, and Lodging. Wonderful flick with Ione Skye and Fairuza Balk. Directed by Alison Anders, really good female director. Then we have the quartet of, goodness, I can't remember what the quartet was, but it's the Hellraiser Quartet, and is just terrific. It's on 4K, and it's lovely. It's definitely one of the best releases. I know the Scarlet box set was pretty popular, but this 4K release is just scrumptious. Definitely the best that I've seen the films look. And what I'll give you an example of why I think they look really good is the Blu-rays tended to strangely show the matte paintings quite a bit, whereas the 4Ks seem to sort of disguise the fact that many of the backgrounds were just mattes. Legend with Ridley Scott, Tom Cruise, and the inimitable Tim Curry playing Darkness. Then we have Loveless with Willem Dafoe, co-directed by Monty Montgomery and Catherine Bigelow. It was basically a student film. Really good though, I like it a lot. Over the Edge, fantastic, smells like Teen Spirit film, which there's no coincidence in that Kurt Cobain often cited this film as one of his most inspirational. RoboCop, the original, Paul Verhoeven, terrific. The grain in this is a little rough. It's in spots. I don't know if the 4K is any better, but I think the Blu-ray looks pretty good overall. Sleep. This is a terrific piece of pagan horror with a little bit of A24 / Stanley Kubrick thrown in. It's definitely got equal parts Wicker Man, Midsommar, The Shining, and it's just a weird, hard to classify film. It is very creepy. Highly recommended. Tremors, classic. Kevin Bacon, he said that his career was perhaps not going so well when he took that part, but it actually worked out well for him. True Romance, written by Quentin Tarantino, and of course starring Christian Slater, Patricia Arquette, bit parts with Gary Oldman, Dennis Hopper, Christopher Walken. It's really a who's who cast. Val Kilmer shows up and plays Elvis. Ridley Scott's brother, Tony, directed the film. It's not perfect, but I think it really does a nice job at sort of being what it is. Then we have Larry Cohen's The Stuff. Too much is never enough. Then we have Wild Things, a classic 1990s noir, sex noir, basically exploitation, just trash. And I had a ball watching it. And this Arrow video release is terrific. It looks great. Peter Weir's Witness. This is the new 4K release. It looks and sounds and feels great. It's a fantastic box set with some really good supplements, and it's just such a great film. I think it's one of Harrison Ford's best. Then Then we've got Vamp, Grace Jones. Really, she's kind of playing a smaller part than you'd think, given that she's the first name on the bill. But Chris Makepeace is in it. It's got some interesting lighting, perhaps a little overly stylized, but I like it, and it's a fantastic time capsule of downtown Los Angeles in the mid-'80s. That certainly doesn't look anything like that anymore. Then we've got Imprint, which of course is out of Australia, and these are region-free discs, so you can play them in your Region A player, no problems. The Apostle, Robert Duvall, Passion Project, wonderful flick. Barfly, Mickey Rourke playing Bukowski. Just a really interesting, somewhat difficult film to watch, but very well made. Barbette Schroeder directed it. Then we have The Beast, a little scene film by, I believe, Kevin Reynolds, who went on to direct Prince of Thieves and Waterworld. But this film is a really interesting experiment that apparently was based on a stage play, of all things. I don't want to really ruin it. I think the less you know, the better, but Jason Patric's in it. He's quite terrific. And the movie itself is pretty harrowing. Breakdown, Kurt Russell, Jonathan Mostow film with the amazing J.T. Walsh, such a great character actor. City of God, wonderful international film. I tell you think you've got problems. This is really, I think, non-sensationalized depiction of what life in the favelas was like in the 70s and 80s, and I think it's a terrific piece of cinema. It's a hard watch though. The Dead Zone, Christopher Walken, David Cronenberg, fantastic film. I think maybe Cronenberg's best. And I have the Shout or Scream Factory release as well, which does look better, but I like the Imprint release. They've got some nice supplements in there that are unique to this release, and I think it still looks good. It's just, I think the Scream Factory 4K release just looks amazing. Then we've got Drugstore Cowboy, Gus Van Sant film starring Matt Dillon, and I believe Heather Graham is in it. It's a wonderful piece of cinema, highly recommended. I think it's probably Gus Van Sant's best film. Then we have The Gambler, James Caan film. Not an easy watch, but really well made, and talk about watching a person just self-destruct. You know, he clearly had major issues. He was an addict and seemed to just want to get his comeuppance, and he gets what he asks for. It's not a pretty film. Very well acted though. Jacob's Ladder, Tim Robbins, Adrian Lyne, wonderful visual psychedelic horror film. Highly recommended. It's right up there with Altered States, in my opinion, as being one of the best in that particular genre. Then we've got the Jim Sheridan box, which of course includes My Left Foot, The Field, In the Name of the Father, and The Boxer. I believe all except for The Field feature Daniel Day-Lewis. Terrific piece of cinema. Then we've got Johnny Got His Gun, Dalton Trumbo. Wow, that is not a pick-me-up. The Music of Chance with James Spader, Mandy Patinkin, the great M. Emmett Walsh, may he rest in peace. Nobody's Fool, Paul Newman, wonderful final film from him, I believe. I think maybe if you count Cars, that might be his last film, but his last live action acting, I believe, was in Nobody's Fool. Great way to go out. Then we've got The Straight Story, David Lynch, wonderful David Lynch film, very atypical. Then we've got Ken Russell's Horror, starring Teresa Russell, no relation. You know, wow. All I can say is this is the anti Pretty Woman, basically. It's really hard to really describe. You just have to watch it. And I believe, if I'm not mistaken, Teresa Russell was married to Nicholas Roeg. Wonderful director, did Walkabout, among other things. Then we've got the Paramount Presents, I believe, line. I've got the Blu-ray release of Fatal Attraction, which is just an amazing piece of cinema. Harold and Maude, also wonderful film, wonderful soundtrack by Cat Stevens. Then we've got Freeway, Matthew Bright directed movie. He, of course, was in Oingo Boingo, and it's an Oingo Boingo kind of movie. It's just all over the place. It doesn't entirely work, but when it does, it's pretty amazing to watch. I thought Reese Witherspoon in particular just gave a firecracker performance, as did Kiefer. They both had great chemistry. Then we've got the other Vinegar Syndrome release is the Texas Chainsaw 2, which of course is just a gonzo piece of cinema. Tobe Hooper. Then finally over here at the end is my Twin Peaks collection, which of course is the Twin Peaks, the entire mystery, and then of course the subsequent Twin Peaks The Return, and they all look fantastic. And the entire, this release here, the entire mystery includes Fire Walk With Me, which is a wonderful piece of cinema, including the missing pieces, which is basically all of the deleted scenes from Twin Peaks Fire Walk With Me, stitched together in as close to chronological order as possible, and it sits very nicely alongside the feature film. Highly recommended for those of you who are into Lynch, and in particular the Twin Peaks universe. So with that, I will just conclude there and say that any of these, or all of these, certainly would sit very easily on any cinephile's shelf. I find that every one of these movies has merit in and of themselves, but certainly the releases that were given by these companies such as Arrow, Imprint, and Vinegar Syndrome warrant your attention.